14 months, alone.
He had nothing. No staff. Whoever's paying you, it's over. I used to leave my phone out all night, just hoping he'd call.
You were grieving. I forgave you already.
You didn't protect this family. You let my father die.
I did what I had to do to protect us.
Rain fell over Empire City the morning Min-soo Cho was buried, and inside the small chapel at Riverside Funeral Home, only one person came to say goodbye. Her name was Denise Hopkins. She sat in the front row with her hand resting on the edge of a plain wooden casket, and she was crying like she had lost her own father, because in every way that mattered she had. 15 rows of empty chairs stretched out behind her. No flowers from a family. No cousins trading old stories in the hallway. No framed photographs propped on an easel by the door. Just Denise, a folding chair, and a man the city's most powerful family had apparently decided to forget. The door opened behind her. Heavy footsteps crossed the tile. She turned and saw a tall man in a black coat, jaw tight, eyes cold enough to freeze the flowers on the casket lid. She had never met him, but she had heard his voice described 100 times, in a small apartment above a laundromat, by a dying man who missed him every single day. "Who are you?" the man said. "And why are you touching his casket?" "I'm Denise," she said, standing slowly. "I took care of your father for 14 months. I'm guessing you're Jaewon." Something flickered behind his eyes at the sound of his own name in a stranger's mouth. Then it hardened again. "My father didn't have 14 months of care. He had nothing. No money, no staff, no visitors. So whoever is paying you to sit in that chair and cry on cue, tell them the show is over." Before we go further, if this story already has your chest a little tight, hit subscribe right now, because what Denise is about to uncover will change everything you think you know about the Cho family. And do me one favor while you're here. Drop a comment and tell me what city you're watching from tonight. I read every single one. Jaewon did not wait for her to explain herself. He called the funeral director over and demanded to know who had let her in. He told the staff to check her name against a list that did not exist, because Min-soo Cho had not spoken to a lawyer, a friend, or a single member of his own family in over a decade. Denise stood there in her one good black dress, humiliated in front of strangers, while the most powerful man in Empire City looked through her like she was made of smoke. The funeral director shuffled through a folder that held nothing about her at all, his face reddening with every empty page. 2 men in dark suits appeared quietly in the doorway, waiting on a single word from Jaewon to walk her out, as if she were a trespasser instead of the only person in the building who had actually loved the man inside that casket. "I'm not lying," she said, her voice shaking now but steady underneath. "Ask his estate. Ask who paid for his care every single month for over a year." It was not a Cho. That one sentence did what nothing else could. Jaewon went still. Because if his family had not paid for his father's care, someone else had. And that meant someone had known exactly where Min-soo Cho was hiding for 15 years, while the entire Cho organization believed he had vanished off the face of the earth. "Where did you meet him?" Jaewon asked quietly. "An agency placed me with him 14 months ago," Denise said. "He was already sick. He never told me his last name at first. Just Min-soo. I found out who he really was 3 months in, when a nurse recognized the name on his prescription." She opened her purse with hands that still trembled and pulled out a small object wrapped in a handkerchief. An old silver watch scratched along the band, the glass fogged with age. "He gave me this the week before he died. Told me to keep it safe. Said it would matter to somebody one day. I did not know that somebody would be standing in front of me an hour after I buried him." Jaewon stared at the watch like it had walked back from the dead. He knew that watch. His father had worn it every single day of Jaewon's childhood, right up until the day he disappeared. He did not say thank you. He did not say anything kind at all. Instead, he took the watch from her hand without asking, told his driver to run a full background check on Denise Hopkins' caregiver, and warned her that if this turned out to be a setup, a play for money, a play for sympathy, a play for anything his family owned, she would regret ever walking into that chapel. The background check came back within the hour, and it told him nothing he wanted to hear. No criminal record. No ties to any rival organization. 14 months of documented home care shifts, verified by an agency that had never once been late on an invoice. Whoever Denise Hopkins was, she was exactly who she claimed to be, which only made the whole situation harder for Jaewon to explain away. Denise let him take the watch. But she looked him dead in the eye and said the only thing she had left. Your father talked about you every single day for 14 months, Mr. Cho. Not about money. About you. I hope one day you're sorry for how you're treating the last person who was kind to him. She walked out into the rain. He watched her go and told himself he did not care. He was wrong. If you have made it this far, you already feel it. This story is about to turn. Hit that subscribe button now so you do not miss where it goes, because in the next few minutes, one small object is going to blow this entire family apart. Stay with me. 3 days later, Jaewon showed up at the address on Denise's background report. A small apartment near the hospital where she worked double shifts most weeks. He did not call first. He just knocked, the watch back in his coat pocket, his face harder than it had been at the funeral, if that was even possible. Tell me everything, he said. Not the kind version. Everything. So she did. She told him his father slept with the television off because silence let him hear his phone, in case it ever rang. She told him Min-soo kept a folder of newspaper clippings about the Cho company's newest ventures, quietly proud of a son who never knew he was being watched. She told him that on the coldest night of that winter, when the building's heat went out, Min-soo apologized to her. Not to his son, not to his brother, to her, a stranger he was paying nothing, for being, in his own words, a man too proud to knock on his own front door. She told him Min-soo kept a chipped mug from a Little League game printed with the words "World's Best Coach," a relic from a season Jaewon barely remembered, and that he had cried harder over that mug than he ever did over money. He could have called me, Jaewon said, and for the first time his voice cracked down the middle. Any day. Any hour. He knew exactly where I was. Did he? Denise asked quietly. Because from where I sat, Mr. Cho, your father did not act like a man who knew he still had a door to knock on. He acted like a man who believed it had been locked against him a long time ago. Jaewon pulled the watch from his pocket, turning it over in his hands the way he had 1,000 times as a boy, watching his father wind it every single morning. This time, his thumb caught on a hairline seam along the back panel he had never once noticed. He pressed it. The back clicked open. Folded inside, smaller than a fingernail, was a piece of paper so old it nearly tore as he unfolded it. Handwriting he knew instantly. His father's, careful and slanted. To Jaewon, when you are finally ready to. The sentence stopped there. Unfinished. Dated 11 years ago. Denise watched the color drain from his face. He tried, she said softly. More than once, from what I could piece together. He just never finished the sentence. I think he was afraid of whatever came after it. Jaewon did not sleep that night. By morning, he had summoned Marcus Reyes, his head of security and the only man left in the organization who had worked for both Min-soo Cho and Jaewon Cho, into his office with a single question. Had any mail, any calls, anything at all, ever come through for his father in 15 years? Marcus went pale in a way Jaewon had never seen from him. There were letters, he admitted finally. Early on. 6, maybe 7 of them over the first 2 years. Return address was your father's. Your uncle told me to hold them, said it was for the family's protection, said they would only reopen old wounds. I filed them away. I never read a single one. I swear to you, Jaewon, I truly thought I was protecting you. Jaewon went to Denise that evening, not as a suspicious stranger this time, but as a man with nowhere else to put what he was carrying. They sat on her fire escape in the cold, and he told her something he had never told another living soul, that as a teenager, he used to leave his phone charging on his desk overnight, screen facing up, just in case his father finally called. He stopped doing that at 19. He used to tell himself it meant he had grown up. It actually meant he had given up. I accused you of lying, he said, in front of strangers. On the worst day of your year, over the one good thing left of him. You were grieving, Denise said gently. People say cruel things when they are grieving. I forgave you the moment I understood why. He looked at her the way Min-soo used to look at an old photograph, like something precious he was almost afraid to touch too hard. Neither of them moved closer. Not yet. But something had shifted between them, quiet and certain as the rain still falling outside. Okay, I need you to subscribe before you keep watching, because the next reveal is the one that changes this entire family forever. Like this video if you are as invested as I am right now, and stay with me because it is about to get so much bigger than one missing watch. Word reached Jaewon Cho, Min-soo's younger brother, and the man who had quietly run the organization in his absence for 15 years, that Jaewon was asking questions about old mail. Within a single day, a rumor moved through the inner circle like smoke that the caregiver Denise Hopkins was not what she claimed to be, that she had been planted by a rival family, that the watch was stolen property, and the note inside it had been forged to manipulate a grieving son out of his own inheritance. By evening, 2 senior lieutenants who had never once met Denise Hopkins were already calling her dangerous. That was how rumors moved inside the Cho organization, not through proof, but through whoever spoke first and loudest. Daniel called Jaewon personally. Cut her loose before the estate reading, he said, warm and reasonable as always. I loved my brother, but I will not let some stranger turn his death into a circus that damages this family's name. For one dangerous moment old habit nearly won. Jaewon had trusted his uncle's judgment his entire adult life. Then Marcus came back with far more than he had been asked to find. A storage unit rented quietly under Daniel Cho's own name for 11 straight years, holding dozens more letters, not 6, not 7, but over 40, every single one addressed to Jaewon, every single one still sealed shut. And underneath them, financial records showing the modest trust meant to support Min-soo in exile had been steadily redirected for over a decade, leaving a man who once ran an empire to die above a laundromat while his own brother lived in a penthouse funded by that very same company. Marcus stood in that dusty storage unit for a long time before he made the call, staring at 15 years of undelivered love stacked in cardboard boxes like it was nothing at all. It had not only been silence, it had been theft. Daniel had not simply kept father and son apart to protect the family name. He had done it to protect his own chair at the head of the table, and he had let his own brother suffer just to keep that chair warm. Denise's watch was never really the mystery. It had only ever been the key. The real secret had been locked inside a storage unit the whole time, waiting for someone loyal enough and brave enough to finally go looking. If this story already has you shaking your head, you are exactly the kind of viewer this channel is made for. Hit subscribe, tap that like button, and tell me down in the comments, could you ever forgive a betrayal like this one? I truly want to know. At the estate reading, in front of the very same senior circle who had spent 15 years quietly calling Min-soo Cho a coward, Jaewon laid every single letter on the table, one after another, followed by the financial records with Daniel's own signature at the bottom of each redirected transfer. Nobody in that room said a word. Chairs creaked. A glass of water sat untouched at the far end of the table, sweating quiet rings into the wood. 15 years of polished, respectable authority cracked open in under 2 minutes. Daniel tried to speak, tried the same warm, reasonable voice he had used his whole life to control a room, and for the very first time it did not work on anyone. You did not protect this family, Jaewon said. You protected yourself and you let my father die for it. You are done. By the end of that week, Daniel Cho no longer held a seat anywhere in the organization his own brother had built. The senior circle, loyal only to whoever held the most power, chose the son who had shown them the truth over the uncle who had spent 15 years burying it. Jaewon found Denise exactly where he somehow knew he would. At his father's grave, laying fresh flowers even though nobody had asked her to. Even though the family that had ignored Min-soo for 15 years now finally, fully knew her name. He did not say much. He did not need to. He slid the silver watch onto his own wrist for the very first time in his life, and he stood beside her in a silence that did not feel empty anymore. He would like this, Denise finally said. The two of us standing here together instead of just one. He would like you, Jaewon said. He knew what real loyalty looked like long before I ever did. I just needed you to show me. Weeks later, Jaewon opened a home care foundation in his father's name, the very first of its kind in Empire City, built to make sure no family ever had to hide someone they loved out of fear or pride again. And he asked Denise to help him run it. Not as an employee, as his partner in every sense of that word. On opening day, families lined up outside a building that used to be nothing but an empty warehouse. Denise cut the ribbon herself, the silver watch catching the morning light on Jaewon's wrist beside her, and for the first time in 15 years, the Cho name meant something other than fear in that neighborhood. The woman who once got humiliated in a chapel for crying too honestly became the reason an entire empire finally learned how to grieve, how to forgive, and how to love out loud without a trace of shame. Grief has a strange way of showing us exactly who really loved someone, and it is not always the people who share their blood. Sometimes it is a stranger who held their hand when nobody else would. If this story moved you tonight, that is exactly what we do here on Empire City Romance Stories. Real emotion, real justice, real love, one powerful story at a time. Subscribe so you never miss the next one. Tap that notification bell, like this video before you go, and tell me down in the comments, have you ever been the one person who truly showed up for somebody when everyone else walked away? I will see you in the next story.